My favorite.
Your favorite? Okay, so once again, welcome to another edition of the Osteopathic Lyceum podcast. Catherine McKenzie.
Hello.
Okay. Hello. I sound horrible.
That's okay.
I don't know if I sound horrible.
You sound better than you did this morning. So
yeah, even though you tried to convince me that I didn't. You were gas piping me.
I was gas piping you.
So you sound better than I do.
Thank you.
Right? I don't know if it's always or just now.
Just now. This is my radio voice.
Your radio voice?
Yeah.
Okay. It's not my radio voice. This is I have mucus on my vocal cords voice. Okay. So we're talking about your thesis.
Yes.
Okay. So tell me, even though I already know.
Okay.
It's like, I already know what you did. Why don't you just tell me so that I can see if you think the same thing as me?
Okay.
You know that move?
Yeah.
The childhood move?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had somebody pull that on me in a very interesting situation. Full-blown adult, head of something.
I'm sure you love that.
Well, no, it was interesting. It's like, I know what it means. Why don't you tell me what you think it means? Basically, I was like, is this really happening?
Is this happening to me?
Yeah, it was the head of something. I'll simply say that. I feel like you should know the direction that I'm talking about, but whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. If you don't, even better. Okay. So your thesis was about...
Yes, my thesis was about treating the thoracic inlet.
Superior thoracic aperture.
Yes, superior thoracic aperture.
The only reason I do that is on account of terminologically. Depending on if you're looking at the artery, the vein, or the nerve.
Yes.
It is either the artery is an outlet.
Okay.
The vein is an inlet. And the nerve is an inlet.
Yes.
Right? The airway, inlet and outlet.
Both.
So the term has shifted across time to superior thoracic aperture. There is a nasty noise about to happen. Please excuse me.
Okay, go for it.
There we go.
Better?
Yeah, I mean...
I don't know.
I feel a little better. I may not sound any different.
You don't sound better.
But whatever. Okay. Superior thoracic aperture.
And yes, what the effects that it has on inspiration, expiration, and oxygen saturation in terms of respiration.
Yeah. So the reason that you attempted to approach the superior thoracic aperture with respect to respiratory values or proxy measurements for respiratory values was because you had experience with people suggesting to you that if you treated the superior thoracic aperture, it should improve respiration.
Correct.
Right? And inside the bony ring is all this fascia.
Yeah.
And it's going to distort, the fascial patterns will distort the pressure on all these things. So if you release it, then it will improve this thing.
As well as lymphatic drainage too, but I have no way to measure lymphatic drainage, but we have a way to measure respiration.
Yeah, so the argument would go as such. If you improve respiratory values, specifically the range between peak inspiration and peak expiration, you should be able to alter pressure gradients better so that the respiratory pump on the lymphatic system works more effectively. Therefore, you've improved it.
Correct.
Now, because you can't measure that, at least circumstantially for us, you wouldn't know, but you would have to make the argument that if you saw a consistent, or you wouldn't have to, you could make the argument that if you consistently improved respiratory values, specifically inspiration and expiration, or inspiratory and expiratory volume, that you could then feel confident going to find a way to check lymphatic drainage.
Exactly. So that was kind of my workaround with wanting to see, does this have any sort of effect on lymphatics? So instead I can see, check respiration.
Yeah. It's an appropriate proxy value to start with.
Yes.
Right? Now, as far as the actual physical hands-on approach, could you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, certainly. So,
or in detail.
I'll try. So with the superior thoracic aperture, I'm trying to take my hands along the bony ring. So instead of just treating, choke them. So it's not just
they
the
are
superficial.
Seated or supine.
They're on their back. So I'm sitting at the head of the table.
Right on.
Patients on their back, hands around the bony ring, thumb at the back around T1.
T1 is as close as they can get, depending on the size of your hand and the size of them.
Exactly. And again, it's not just a superficial treatment. We're not just doing fascia muscle. I'm actually trying to apply overpressure to the bony ring.
Yeah. And what would the rationale for that anatomically be? Because you're concerned about the inside stuff.
Because of the inside.
Yeah. So if you move the bones, you think that you have put appropriate tension on the internal soft tissue structure.
Exactly, as opposed to just the superficial layer. I'm not really getting into the bony ring.
So essentially, if somebody was to look at it, they would possibly see what looks like torso or neck movement as auxiliary, right? They wouldn't necessarily see you gliding over the superficial tissue, especially on the chest.
No.
Right? You're trying to move bone.
I'm trying to move bone.
And I will say the rationale is if you don't move the bones, you can't believe that you've put tension on the internal structure.
Yes, I agree.
Right? Okay, now, if I was to try to extend that argument and be nitpicky, when somebody's in supine, both the disassociation possibility of the neck to the shoulder or both shoulders, or the torso to the neck or whatever, the ability to actually get far enough to truly put tension on either side or in total of that ring is probably minimized.
Yes.
Because you just can't go far enough.
Exactly.
So let's just say, because you're using a relatively standard approach with the superior thoracic aperture, I will call it like a school bus.
Yes. Driving a school bus.
Right, yeah. Like, I call something else a school bus, but it's a patient active neck approach, right? But to be fair, or what I would say with the extension of the argument, if I do this and I have their head still or their head way over and I do this, right, I move their torso in relation to a still head, I may be putting more tension on the internal soft tissues because I've disassociated the neck from the position of the shoulder and then I've really kind of gone after it. But you're using an approach that you understood previously because you want to know if that approach does what somebody told you it did.
Exactly.
Or not somebody, the profession
has told me.
So you're testing a claim of the profession. Okay. So but because the table's in the way, it's way easier on you. I don't know how you're going to drive.
How I'm going to drive. Yeah.
And keep things still. So supine's a good position to keep things still.
Yes.
But you're probably not going to get enough movement to actually put tension on that internal soft tissue structure.
That part definitely was difficult, especially if I'm treating someone substantially larger than me. So
that's why you work out.
Yeah, that's why I work out. That's why I'm so strong.
Except you haven't lifted weights in a while, so.
Well, yeah.
Whatever.
Don't call me out.
Don't body shame me. So, okay. So you use those values. You were using inspiratory and expiratory volume and SpO2.
Yes.
My general assumption, I think I said this early when you were using SpO2. I'm like, I don't think anything's going to happen.
Yeah, you did say that. And at the time I have the device. I may as well
check it.
I may as well check it.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Did you encounter anybody who was below 97% SpO2?
I think there was only one person, but she had acrylic nails on.
Okay.
So I think it was just the reading was off.
Yeah. And that was the one where you actually had no reading.
I had no reading, and I removed her from the study.
Oh, okay. I don't remember.
Or no.
You just didn't care about that
value. No, I just didn't care about that value.
That's
yeah, right.
Because realistically, that was probably an auxiliary value. And so let's just say SpO2. So SpO2 you were monitoring the whole time.
Yes.
You recorded the pre-value and you recorded the post-value. Did it ever change?
Minimally. I think my results were on average 0.25.
Yeah, like nothing.
Nothing.
Right. Do you remember the general SpO2 value that you would want to begin being concerned with clinically?
I think that's below 95.
It's not necessarily, it's closer to kind of like 91, 88-ish.
Okay.
That's the area where you're like...
No one was ever below.
No. And like nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Right. Especially outside of normal fluctuation. Because it will have some fluctuation in everybody. Okay, so like nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Right? Which I expected. And I'm pretty sure I told you that well.
Yeah.
Right, but that's okay. It's better to measure.
It was as I kept going along,
sounds right.
Nothing's happening, but I'm this far into it, so I may as well just keep going.
Fair enough. Yeah. And that's totally fine because you're staying true to your prediction and how you set your experiment up. You're not changing in the middle saying, I'm seeing nothing, forget it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So you stuck to it, which is more valuable.
Yes.
So what did you see? So inspiratory volume, expiratory volume, you tested before, you applied treatment, and you tested in seated.
Tested in seated.
Inspiratory value, expiratory volume in seated. Treatment in supine, put them back into seated, and then you tested more or less immediately.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
If it's going to do anything, it's going to do something right now, not in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, somebody could argue, well, maybe we should check it later.
But why?
Fair enough. Now, why would you pose the question of why based on what you found?
Just because the values were so all over the place. It wasn't like I was seeing everyone was slightly getting better. Okay, so how much better if we wait a little bit, or how much worse if we wait a little bit? Everything was so all over the place that there was no point.
Yeah, or no point you could predict.
No point I could predict.
Now here's the kind of the devil's advocate approach.
Okay.
Right? Like, well, just because you didn't see it at time point 0 doesn't mean you won't see it at time point 30. Right? Now, if I see no consistent value or consistent direction, then my prediction is that I will continue to see nothing consistent. If I see a consistent, say, no change,
yes,
then I'm like, well, I see no change. Why would I see change 20 minutes down the road?
Yeah.
Or half an hour down the road, right? Like, maybe. It doesn't mean there's no value in checking that. It means there's probably no value.
There's probably no value.
And, okay, so you had, the results were all over the place with respect to both inspiratory and expiratory volume. The average change for inspiratory volume,
I think the average was plus 1.3.
and that's percent.
That was percent.
That's percent. That's not what's the actual measure on that? Like this is a 2-letter measure. Like millisomething, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I wish I remembered.
I know, I wish I did too.
Because it's science, like, you should remember right now.
No.
Right? You just, like, it's like a 1250.
Yeah.
Whatever. Right? I just don't remember the actual measure. And hey, man, that's what happens. But the percentage.
But the percentage was.
Makes it more clear.
Yes.
Right?
If I'm remembering correctly, inspiration was positive 1.0%.
Yeah. And then expiration
was negative 1.6.
So, even though you would have seen much larger improvements and much larger decrements,
yes,
the average inspiration, it's like, well, we improve inspiration, we ruin expiration, right? But it's not what actually happened, because if you look at each data point, some people had good increases in inspiration and good increases in expiration. Some individuals would have good increase in one and decrement in another. So it is not an approach that stably does a consistent thing to respiration, respiratory values.
It was so inconsistent across the board, so I just don't see how this could all be called a reliable treatment.
Yeah, reliable, and that term with respect to measurement being, it discriminates between good and bad, or ideal and non-ideal, or a thing that is and a thing that isn't. Discrimination is an important term in reliability, and then also a stable range of results. The thing that you really saw was an unstable range of results. So there's no opportunity for it to be a reliable approach to improve a target measurement.
Exactly.
Right? So now let's just say somebody wanted to talk about, like, well, it improves gas exchange. It's like, whatever, man.
But again, how are you measuring that?
Yeah, right. That's the common retort in all science. Well, how did you measure it?
How did you measure it?
Right? Well, you didn't use the best machine, and my lab has the better machine.
Then I will gladly take it.
Yeah. Can I have access?
Yeah,
No,
exactly. Yeah.
Right.
I have access what I have access to, and this is what I'm able to measure.
Awesome. So the general process of doing this, is there something you can point in the direction of that it did that was a positive thing for you? Like, you can talk about, say, clinically, you can talk about intellectually, you can talk about universe, I don't know.
It's more just, there's so many different claims in the osteopathic world that it's nice to actually be able to apply values to something and physically see, is this making a difference versus being told this will make a difference. You need to actually apply something and look at the outcome.
Okay.
But with this type of treatment, because the claim is so internal or on the physiological side, we need
the claim.
We need to be able to have some way to measure that claim instead of just continuing down this pathway that could be harming people. Yeah.
So it's like, I made them move better, so it must be working better.
Exactly.
It's like, that's not how things work.
No.
Right? The other experiment that we've seen something like that with so far is prone oscillation.
Yes.
So prone oscillation, heart rate and blood pressure should generally drop if the common claim of improving autonomic tone, especially increasing parasympathetic tone, if that's what's happening, heart rate and blood pressure should drop.
Yes.
It went all over the place.
Yes.
So the claim doesn't match the observable reality. And even though there are papers out there that talk about, it does this, it's like, no, you never actually tested it. No. You used somebody else's study. And I've talked about that before. It was the, finger, the rhythmicity applied to a finger in a machine, and it decreased cortical excitability. And I'm like, okay, great. So that means that it does something to the parasympathetic nervous system. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It means it changes the motor nerve.
Yeah.
Like, please be nice to me, and I'll be nice to you. But you weren't nice to me, so I have to repeat this. So if I can recapitulate, the value for you is that you were able to go through the process of examining a claim made by the profession,
yes,
and seeing that it isn't the way that it is said that it is.
Yes,
right?
Correct.
As far as the process of setting up an experiment, is there anything you can comment on there?
The one thing, especially in the beginning, was me questioning practitioner reliability on whether
if I'm good enough.
If I'm good enough, because the results were so all over the place.
Okay.
It was me questioning, am I doing this wrong to certain people and right to certain people?
Okay.
But I'm doing the exact same thing to everyone.
Yeah, or your aim is to.
And my aim is to, because obviously the motion restriction is going to be different across
in each person based on the movements that you're utilizing. Yeah.
But in terms of the treatment applied, it's the same.
Yeah.
So reminding myself that I am doing the same treatment.
Yeah.
It might just be left rotation or right rotation.
Okay, right on. So I think it's a valuable question, right?
Like practitioner reliability.
Yeah, like, do I suck?
Yeah. I was definitely questioning myself.
Yeah. The net result of that going through the process, did that do anything for you?
The continued different values that I was getting was confirming that it's not me, it's the treatment.
So, and I'm only saying this because it's a valuable question. Mm-hmm. Do you think there would be value, say, in you repeating this in a few years?
No.
Though, based on what you found so far, I understand.
Based on what I found,
but with respect to you wanting to be sure that it wasn't your skills.
And that's fair, because I am a new practitioner.
In a comparative sense.
In comparative sense. So it could be that maybe I need a bit more hands-on treatment. My hands need to wake up a bit more.
You didn't have to say that in front of me. That is the poop of animals. And I'll only say it that way because I don't need to swear on the YouTubes too much.
Yeah, no. But no, it could just be I need to refine my skills a little bit more.
Yeah. So I pose that not because I think that's what it is.
Okay.
But if we wanted to double down and make sure.
If we want to confirm reliability, but at the same time going through some other case studies that I was finding, people were reporting the same thing in terms of respiratory volume increase and decrease. And
respiratory impact from OMT.
Yeah.
It's all over the place.
It's all over the place.
Yeah, so you can't trust it.
No.
And it's not that it doesn't do something good. It's that it doesn't always do something good. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it does nothing, and sometimes it does something negative.
Yeah.
So my general proposal for the reporting of any impact of any healthcare intervention is I want to see the percentages of how often it does nothing, how often it goes in the desired direction, and how often it goes in the negative direction.
Yes.
And I connect that to medical ethics because primum non nocere or non-maleficence.
Yes.
First, do no harm. If I know that there are things that go in a negative direction with respect to what they want to do, mm-hmm. and I'm a healthcare practitioner, I have to question whether or not I should do that to anybody. So there are healthcare interventions that have known. So people will talk about side effects. Some people will argue that they are unintended direct effects, but they're not consistent in everybody. If you see a side effect profile of a lot of things, interventions, it's all over the place. It's all over the place. Right? And if we know that that's the case, then it's like, well, is this the best way for us to work on healthcare?
Because you don't know. You don't know the
who
outcome.
It's going to be.
Yeah.
Right? You've heard the term iatrogenic death.
No, I don't think I have.
Death caused by appropriately prescribed medical intervention.
Okay.
It is a real thing.
Okay.
Right? Because people are different. You can't predict how each person's going to respond.
Correct.
If you go by averaged data and statistical significance, what you're getting is confidence that this thing goes this direction most of the time, better than chance, better than random noise. But that doesn't mean it's good in everybody. It just means that it's more likely to be positive in most people. So if we use medical ethics and we apply it to your findings, can I, in good faith, say that if I wanted to improve respiratory values, that I should use that knowing that it will cause no harm to any individual?
No, exactly. Because you don't know the outcome for that individual. You don't know who you're going to be harming.
So if somebody's presenting with a legitimately identified respiratory issue,
yes,
I can't turn to this move.
This isn't the treatment applied.
Nope. Right? Do you think, based on what you were able to find with reports from OMT research, that I should have the assumption that I can positively impact respiration with any approach?
I do think based on some of the other studies I was finding, ribs seem to...
Like rib springing?
Rib springing.
Okay.
That popped up a few times in terms of my research and just trying to find articles to support or... Now,
did it have a generally positive average, or were you able to see in this many people it got better, and this many people it did nothing, and this many people it went negative?
Well, to be fair, the people that they were applying the treatment to had chronic issues like COPD.
Sorry for my...
No, I appreciate that.
For my OCD?
OCD?
No, accuracy loving.
No, I appreciate it. Please correct me.
Yeah.
So in terms of the treatment being applied to someone that actually has COPD or like a diagnosed respiration issue.
I think that laughing is going to be caught by our mics. It's awesome.
Okay.
There we go.
There was positive outcome for those people. However, it wasn't long term. It was short term.
Yeah. Did you find the studies that were COPD, OMT for COPD, air trapping, and patient subjective report? Is that what you found?
I don't remember now.
It's okay. I only asked because there's two studies. They're kind of Kirksville-based studies. And it was OMT for COPD. They check air trapping. At 0, 30, and 60 minutes, I think. I might be wrong about the 60. They definitely check at 30. And then they ask the patients if they liked it.
Oh.
Okay? If they feel like they breathe better.
Okay.
Broadly speaking, air trapping got worse.
Okay.
So the actual respiratory values for COPD patients got worse as measured, but they almost all consistently reported that they felt better.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
And I'm like, well, which one do I care about?
Yeah.
As a human being, I care that they feel better. As a medical professional, I care if the target measurement got better. Because if I worsen air trapping in COPD patients, I haven't helped them.
No, exactly.
Right. So I only ask because there are two studies that I know of with COPD and hands-on OMT, and it got worse.
I don't think I included... So the one study that I found was actually a compilation of many different...
meta-analysis.
It was a meta-analysis. So that helped me go down my rabbit hole of finding
some stuff.
Yeah,
it's a way to find papers.
It was a good way to find papers, but they went through to see which treatments are actually having a positive outcome, and rib springing was one of them.
So what I will say is, at least locally, have you seen Tasia's results? Has she talked to you about them?
She talked to me about them, where it's positive, but
it's statistically significant.
But it was a small increase.
Okay, so the average increase isn't gigantic.
Okay.
But it is statistically significant. Means that if you look at the group before and the group after, the values have changed in a particular direction. Better than random chance. Right? So one of hers, I can't remember if it's inspiratory or expiratory, is highly statistically significant. Now we used a t-test, which basically means this measure versus this measure, assuming that these groups are the same groups and something happened between. Do they look like different groups or do they look like the same group? right? And they look different.
Okay.
And the only thing that happened was rib springing twice.
Okay.
Right? So it's statistically significant, and the average is in the positive direction.
Yes.
For the values, or the target direction is a better way to say it. However, some people got worse, some people nothing happened, and some people got better.
Okay.
But because it looks significant, I can report it as statistically significant. They don't have to tell you that some people got better, some people got worse.
Okay.
It's kind of assumed. And there's ways to represent that data where people would look at it and they'd kind of know that you have an average line, and you'd see dots in varying places. Okay. So people could figure it out and they would understand it. But if I report it as statistically significant, or she reports it as statistically significant, then people will think, I rib spring and it gets better. And I'm like, sometimes it gets worse.
Yes.
Right? So that's where it becomes, with respect to ethics, non-maleficence. Okay. If I know that in some people it goes the wrong direction, should I consider OMT a good choice for consistently always going the right direction?
No.
Based on the information that both of us have access to, right? So it's like, God damn it.
I know. It's like, so then what?
We don't target the value. We target what we can find, which is the movement. So all of this to say, that stuff that I teach, right?
It's correct.
It is more accurate than targeting a measurable physiological value.
Okay. No, that totally makes sense.
I really hope it makes sense, even if it's wrong. Because at least it makes sense.
At least it makes sense.
A lot of stuff that makes sense is actually wrong, right? It's just a quirky thing. Don't worry too much about that. I don't have to chase that down too much. So if you identify movement issues and try to interface with somebody based on movement issues, and the movement issues changed, you accurately did something to your finding. If you assume that the movement issue means something on a physiological measure, you could be right, you could be wrong. Right?
But you won't know unless you're actually measuring it.
And that gets really cumbersome.
Yes.
It probably wasn't that enjoyable to have a piece of equipment, have somebody use it, clean it every time properly.
And make sure you're explaining the steps the exact same way every single time for consistency.
Not that fun.
Not that fun.
Right. So let's just say you encounter a scientific claim, regardless of field. Are you going to immediately trust it at this point? Or are you going to do your best to check through, okay, what are the assumptions they made? I'm leading. Like, what are the assumptions they made? How did they do it? Do I know enough about that? If I don't, let me check it out, see if it's whatever. Like, are you going to go, somebody said that this is how it works. Is it?
Is it?
Right? So do you feel like you're more likely to do that now than you were in the past?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Especially in this program, the way that you designed it, I feel like you constantly have us questioning some of these claims. Yeah. And that's not something that I was ever really privy to before. Sure.
Well, it wasn't asked of you. It
wasn't asked of me. I feel like
in whatever education you've done before, and you've done multiple forms of education, right? So
you take things as facts when someone's telling you something, especially in terms of academics.
Yeah. It's like, well, the person that I paid to tell me stuff told me stuff, so I guess.
Okay, this is it.
Fair enough. But my preference is I want people to understand how to check.
Yes.
Right? How to examine, how to search, right? It's different words to try to say the same thing. Even when I'm providing demonstration with hands-on stuff, I'm like, so based on what I'm saying here, does this make my confidence go up or my confidence go down, right? And sometimes it makes it go up and sometimes it goes down. And then, I'm like, okay, based on what's left over, I can't support what I thought. Yeah. It's this other thing.
Exactly.
Right? Well, that's the best I can do right now. So it's kind of increasing or decreasing confidence as opposed to I'm right. Right? That's my hope. Does doing the thesis, having that experience, and then say tying in what I just talked about, do anything for you, or do you think it does something for your ability to get through clinical scenarios?
I would say so. Yeah. I would say so. Yeah. Just especially being able to take out some previous treatments that we've been able to experiment in our classroom together, being able to just throw those out. I don't need those anymore because I wasn't getting the results that I thought I should.
Yeah. So instead of using something because somebody said it's supposed to do something,
or because it looks cool,
you're more likely to say, what did I find based on my or your your standardized approach to assessment. And if you didn't find anything in that, you add tests in. It's what did I find and what can I do about what I found?
Exactly.
Not assume that there's this thing that explains it. There's this approach, this concept that explains it. So because of this concept, because somebody previously told me that that's the way it is, I'm going to work on that. Regardless of what I found, I'm going to do that. Or it's like, yeah, it's not moving there. I just go there.
Yes. This doesn't move. I want to make it move.
Yes. Yeah. And whatever it does, it does.
Yeah.
The way that I tend to say that now is that properly ties into the quote attributed to Dr. Still that he didn't write down. Find it, fix it, leave it alone. Nature will kindly take care of the rest. Right? Like, so if the reason they're reporting their experience or their sensation to you is because it's not moving, if you move it, it should change. Right? The movement will change.
Yes.
The feeling should
the
change.
Feeling should change.
If the feeling and the movement are not properly related, no, they move better, they feel the same. Right? So, okay. Overall, the experience was enjoyable.
I would say it was positive. I gained something out of it.
Right on.
Yeah.
And you did a good job of when you had a question or when you had done something, you communicated with me, asked me to check it, gave feedback.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's my job. It's how I say it's supposed to work. So there's value in keeping the communication. I can't chase everybody down, but if you chase me down, it seems to work okay.
It does. Yes, I'll find you.
Yeah.
Don't you worry.
I'll find you. Yeah, and we had some good banter. The one thing that I do want to comment on specifically is you left an Easter egg at the end of your thesis.
Well, I'm glad you actually read my thesis fully.
As a GIF. It was a Simpsons GIF, and basically Homer calling somebody a nerd. Yeah. Right? What I want to say is that I'm glad that you felt safe enough to put that in. Yeah. Because in many circumstances, if you put that in, you would predict that you would get some negative repercussions. Yes. Right? And I'm like, no. I have fun. If it crosses the line, I'll just tell you.
Yeah, exactly. You will.
If it crosses a line that you didn't know existed.
Now I know.
Then, now you get the feedback, right? You tested, you get the feedback. But I appreciated it so much, I put it on Instagram.
So I appreciate that too. That was funny.
But I'm glad that you were okay with that. People will eventually know that it was you.
I had the classmates message saying, "Who did this?"
And you're
me. Someone said, "I definitely thought it was you."
But again, it's just what it does is gives me the feedback that the environment that's generated in the institution is one that people feel safe enough.
It's positive
to play.
Exactly. Right? Yeah.
So that's awesome.
We have fun, but we work hard.
Yeah. But actually. It's not just words.
No.
Okay, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We're good. I don't have to keep straining the stupid voice.
Okay.
Right. I mean, this is going to be
You did a good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm doing this. Angry Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
God damn it, guys! What are you doing? You ruined it. And I was just in Disney Springs not that long ago.
Oh, you should. That's too bad. Missed opportunity.
Long time.
Yeah, missed opportunity.
Yeah. So, thanks for listening this far. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully, it's useful.